Ezra Levant here. I'm outside the Royal Courts of Justice. As you can see, there's a bit of a crowd out here. These are some of the folks who were in courtroom for today for the Court of Appeal hearing of Tommy Robinson, who was challenging the sentencing that he received last year for contempt of court. It was a 1 hour and 15-minute hearing today. Alistair Williamson, King's Counsel, led Tommy Robinson's appeal, and there was another King's Counsel on the government side rebutting. I think the government had 6 lawyers in the court today, if I counted properly. And of course, Tommy Robinson, besides, he had actually two barristers and a number of solicitors. It's just an enormous industry. Battling over Tommy Robinson is a cottage industry in this country. And as I mentioned in an earlier video, holding Tommy Robinson in prison is an industry too. He is in a unit with 16 cells. They emptied it out just for him, and another 8 cells they've emptied it out so he can work there. Literally 25 cells in His Majesty's Prison Woodhill have been cleared out to hold Tommy Robinson, a civil prisoner. He's not even in there for a crime. He's in there because he wouldn't take down a Twitter tweet, and that's not a crime. The fact that 25 violent criminals were set free is astonishing. Anyways, I don't want to repeat that story. Let me get back to what happened in court today. So there were 2 things happening. On the one hand, the Tommy Robinson lawyers wanted to bring new evidence before the Court of Appeal. And the reason why that's important is that an appeal, by definition, is not a rehearing. It's not another kick at the can. It's not another trial. It's reviewing the record that was before the lower court and reviewing if that lower court was correct or correct enough. Higher courts, like the Court of Appeal, are reluctant to overturn lower courts unless there's a really important error that they made. So adducing fresh evidence was an important application made by Tommy's lawyers. And one of the main things that they wanted before the court is a 39-page psychological report done of Tommy Robinson in recent weeks. And that psychological report diagnoses Tommy with not only PTSD, but also ADHD. And I won't get into the technicalities, but it basically said that prison is causing Tommy to become more and more mentally ill. And that's not only a problem now, but God forbid, could lead to a catastrophic incident once he's released. I hate to even say it, but it was brought up in court, including the risk of suicide. May it not happen. But this psychological examination of Tommy Robinson was not disputed by the government. That is, they do not challenge it. They do not disagree with it. They do not say it's incorrect. They do not have a counter expert trying to defeat it. Basically, the argument made by the government today is, so what? Their argument is the sentencing judge knew enough about Tommy's mental state and referred to how rough prison is in his sentencing. And Tommy already got a modest discount for mental health reasons. So basically the Crown is saying, even if this fresh evidence is put before the Court of Appeal, it is not enough, they say, to reduce his sentence. Now, Alistair Williamson, on behalf of Tommy, said that the challenge here is to realize that this is a civil prisoner, not a criminal prisoner. And so when we think of a prisoner doing hard time in segregation, in solitary, having his privileges removed, as Tommy has had done to him, we're used to thinking about a criminal context. I mean, this Woodhill prison is a place where murderers are kept. But Tommy Robinson is in there because he wouldn't take down a tweet. So to compare the treatment of a civil prisoner with murderers is absurd and insane. The judges were attentive, especially the Chief Justice, and at the end of it they announced that they were not going to make their ruling immediately, but rather were going to review the voluminous written statements and the arguments made by the lawyers today. I don't know how quickly they're expected to rule. I don't know how quickly the UK Court of Appeal normally issues rulings. It wouldn't surprise me if they took at least a week or two. And they may just issue a written ruling and send it electronically to the lawyers, or they may convene again here in the court. I do not know. I want to lower expectations because I think it's important to know that most appeals fail because higher courts want to defer to the trial judge. Higher courts only want to overturn a lower court if there was something dramatically wrong. Now, Tommy Robinson is the first British journalist to be jailed for contempt of court in nearly a century. The length of his sentence is extraordinary. So perhaps the extreme nature of his sentence does merit a reduction by the court. But there was one point that the government lawyer made that may have resonance with the judges, and that is some of Tommy's ability to get out of prison rests with him. Because during the sentencing, the judge essentially said to him, if you take that Twitter video down now, we'll lop off months from your sentence. And Tommy refused to do so. And today, again, the government lawyer said that if Tommy Robinson were to purge his contempt by taking down the tweet, that might reduce the prison sentence immediately, even without the judges having to do anything unusual, because that's sort of what the sentencing judge said. And by the way, I did go to Tommy Robinson's Twitter feed, and at least during the hearing, the video was not his pinned tweet. Anyways, I'm getting a little bit lost in the weeds, and I think part of it has to do with my lack of sleep. I flew overnight, and I maybe slept an hour on the plane, and I did my best to be attentive in the courthouse. I apologize if I'm a little bit rambling here. I'll try again a little bit later, maybe once I've had a snooze. But it is funny, I left Canada, there was snow on the ground when I left Ottawa some 15 hours ago, and here it is, 20 degrees Celsius in the UK today. I should say there's one more thing that caught my attention. When the government lawyer was reading out what he called facts from the prison warden, the prison governor, Nicola Marfleet, a DEI, affirmative action hire, a very sadistic woman, Tommy Robinson objected, and you can see he was on the video screen and he was waving and he was writing notes on a piece of paper, calling Marfleet's facts lies. And some of them I know are lies. For example, the point that Tommy Robinson has a large number of visitors. I know from personal experience that I was accepted as a visitor and then canceled twice. So I know that the prison governor cannot be trusted. But I'm not sure if those points really are going to move the needle in this case. I don't know if that's really where the front line in this battle was. I think there's a chance, because of Tommy's mental health deterioration and because of his unusual and cruel treatment in the prison system, there is a chance that his sentence will be reduced. But frankly, if that were to happen, you would think it would have been done in the judicial review a few weeks ago that was specifically about his treatment in prison. The judge in that case didn't have it. But I was glad to see them try. I'm just so sorry that Tommy is still in prison. I think, if my math is right, he's set to be out in July, which is an eternity from now when you realize how long a day feels in solitary confinement. That's my report for now. Hopefully I'll cogitate on this a little bit more. I was glad to see other citizen journalists in the court, and I was glad that there was no attempt to kick them out, as I've seen before. There were some folks from Vox Populi in there. I can't remember all the independent journalists, but I was happy to see them. And that's a change over the years. I remember when I started covering Tommy Robinson's court cases, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was, Rebel News was the only game in town if you didn't want to read what the BBC government broadcaster had to say. But I'm pleased to say there were, I think, 4 citizen journalists in court today and more outside. So it's a very healthy change. Speaking of citizen journalism, I did fly out here, obviously on my own dime. Unlike the BBC, I can't extort money from taxpayers. If you want to help me cover my flight, feel free to do so at TommyReports.com. Thanks for your help, and as you know, we'll keep covering Tommy's cases until he's free. Thanks for your time.